As the coronavirus outbreak has engulfed the world, Chinese leader Xi Jinping is facing rare criticism there in Beijing, in his home country. Here's One America's Jack Posobiec.
We're very pleased to welcome back to One America News Brad Johnson, former CIA station chief and now the president of Americans for Intelligence Reform. Brad, thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Jack, always a pleasure to speak with you.
Now, we're looking at China, as you and I have talked about many times, and China's response to the coronavirus outbreak. It started in Wuhan. And Xi Jinping, Chairman Xi Jinping, what has this done to his standing inside China, inside the party?
Now, this is an interesting development because you were starting to see some pushback. There's a letter that's surfaced that apparently comes from within the ranks of the party talking about his leadership on this issue. So he's receiving some in-house criticism, if you will. Now, it's going to be very difficult for us as outside observers to see just how far this goes. But the fact that it's surfaced at all is very unusual for Chinese politics. So this is going to play out in an interesting fashion. Now, Chairman Xi is in control. He does run the party, runs the country, and all of the military and law enforcement within that country are under his control. So he's got a lot of power to push back on this issue.
Now, how often is it that we even see any kind of criticism from inside the party against what they refer to as sort of the supreme leader?
Yeah, close to zero. I mean, it's very, very rare. I mean, the Communist Party systems are set up in such a way that there is no methodology to come out and actually criticize leadership. Anything of that nature is done by committee with him present, and they'll be discussing the different options, and the party leader will make the decisions. So for there to be any form of dissent like this that's made public, it's extraordinarily rare. Certainly, I would say it's one of the very few times in his period of control, and really any other. I mean, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, one of the biggest reports that we're seeing now is that there was a dissident, a real estate tycoon by the name of Ren Zhiqiang, and that this anonymous letter that's been going viral on Chinese social media is attributed to him. He's someone who has disappeared for going after Xi Jinping very harshly, but this seems to echo a lot of his sentiments, calling for transparency within China, saying that he is to blame for allowing the lunar celebration to go on in Wuhan, even though the outbreak was already known, really putting a lot of this at his feet, and pointing out also that if the United States decides to actually start re-examining some of these supply chain relationships, then that is going to be on Xi as well.
Yes. Now, there is probably some legitimate criticism there. Now, whether that individual actually wrote the letter or not remains to be seen. Certainly, we could put him as suspect number one, I suppose, but it doesn't matter who wrote the actual letter. The fact that that letter's out there and that it has become public is the far more significant aspect of this.
Now, that being said, Xi Jinping has stylized himself as this sort of chairman for life position. He's done a lot to sort of restructure the format so that he can stay in control for the rest of his life. However, prior to that, the Chinese leaders had been following a sort of term limit of 10 years. His 10-year term, if still following that older system, would be up in 2022. Does this create a situation now where the party might be looking at maybe taking a page out of Russia's book of sort of playing a kind of shell game or musical chairs a little bit to keep him in power, but maybe looking as if someone else is taking that role of the face?
Yeah, you've really hit on an interesting question about this. I think the chairman it does appear that the chairman was setting himself up to be chairman for life, or certainly a much longer term. And this is probably one of a couple of things going on behind the scenes. This could be early maneuvering to put him in the position of where he is indeed going to need to essentially retire from power, or from the main position of power within China in 2022, or it could be actual dissent for mishandling of the problem, or certainly a combination thereof. Other factors would certainly play into it. The personality conflicts that exist within the party that we don't see, this is the excuse for those to bubble to the surface. So it's difficult to read, but it's certainly going to be a combination of those factors most likely, and it could be either a warning shot to him or an actual maneuver against him.
Brad Johnson, the website is intelreform.org. I would urge everyone to go check that out. Thank you so much, Brad.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.